You got really good at reading rooms. Like, you can walk into a space and within 30 seconds, you know who's tense, who's annoyed, who needs to be handled carefully. You know what jokes are safe to make. You know when to go quiet. You know when to fill the silence so it doesn't get awkward. You know when someone's smile is real and when it's the kind of smile that means they're barely holding it together and absolutely do not want to talk about it. You've been doing this so long, you don't even think about it anymore. It's just what you do. It's just who you are. Except it's not who you are. It's who you became. There's a difference. I think a lot of us learned early that love wasn't unconditional. Not really. It came attached to something. To being easy, to being agreeable, to not making things harder than they already were. And we were smart kids. We figured it out fast. You want people to stay. You make yourself worth keeping. You make yourself useful. You make yourself small enough to fit whatever shape the room needs you to be. And so you started editing, quietly. The opinion that would cause friction, you swallowed it. The thing you actually wanted to do tonight, you deferred it. The part of you that was angry or tired or needed something or didn't want to go or was genuinely not okay, you tucked it away somewhere and you smiled and you said, "Yeah, sounds good, I'll be there." And you were there. You were always there. And it works. That's the thing nobody talks about. People pleasing works. People like you. People rely on you. You become the one everyone calls. The one who shows up. The one who remembers birthdays and checks in and says, "I'm fine, don't worry about me." When you are very clearly not fine. You're dependable. You're warm. You're the person in the group chat who smooths things over when there's tension. You're the one who drives, who listens, who adjusts, and you tell yourself, that's love. That giving is love. That being needed is the same thing as being wanted. It's not. I had this friend once. I've had this friend, honestly, like 3 separate times now. Different people, same shape, where I realized about 8 months in that I had bent myself completely around them, their schedule, their moods, their needs. I had opinions I didn't share because I knew they'd make things weird. I had plans I canceled because they seemed like they were having a rough week. I said you were right to things I didn't think they were right about because it just wasn't worth the energy of disagreeing. I rearranged myself so thoroughly that one night I sat in my car outside my own apartment and thought, I genuinely do not know what I actually want right now. Not tonight, not this year. I don't know. That's a strange thing to realize. That you've been so busy being what everyone else needed that you lost the thread back to yourself. And the worst part, the part that really gets you, is that no one asked you to. That's what makes it so hard to be angry about. No one held a gun to your head and said, disappear. You did it because you thought it was the price of admission. You did it because somewhere along the way you decided that your unedited, unfiltered, inconvenient self was too much, was not enough, was somehow both at once. You were too sensitive, too needy, too intense, too something, and so you learned to sand those edges down. You learned to lead with warmth instead of honesty. You learned that asking for things made people uncomfortable, so you stopped asking. You got so good at not asking that eventually you stopped even noticing you needed things. You convinced yourself you were low maintenance, and maybe you even felt a little proud of that. But that's not low maintenance, that's disconnection. There's a difference. You know that thing where you say, I don't mind, so many times, that you actually start to forget what you do mind? Yeah, that. You stop having preferences, or you have them, but you've buried them so deep under whatever you want, and I'm easy, and no, seriously, it doesn't matter to me, that they might as well not exist. And people start to see you that way too. Easy. Low maintenance, flexible, chill. And they mean it as a compliment, they do. But something in you hears it as shapeless, forgettable. The kind of person who can be moved around without consequence. You were in the room, you were always in the room, but you were never actually there. There's this thing people pleasers do that I find kind of heartbreaking the more I think about it. We perform okayness, aggressively. We are the first to laugh, the first to say, no, it's fine. The first to pivot the conversation away from anything that might make someone feel guilty for not noticing we were struggling. We protect everyone from the inconvenience of our pain. We are so good at this that sometimes people who've known us for years genuinely don't know we've been sad. Not because they didn't care, because we were too good at hiding it. And then we feel invisible, and we don't understand why. But the thing is, and I've thought about this a lot, you can't be truly seen when you're wearing a costume. You can't be truly loved when the version of you that people know is a version you assembled specifically to be lovable. Because then what they love isn't you. It's your performance, it's your usefulness, it's the ease and the warmth and the never complaining and the always showing up, which are real parts of you. I'm not saying they're not, but they're not all of you, and deep down you know that. Deep down, that's exactly why it doesn't feel like enough. You want to be known, not appreciated, known. There's a difference between someone saying you're such a good friend and someone saying I see you. One of those feels like a grade. The other one feels like water. And here's the thing I want to say, and I want to say it carefully because I don't want it to sound like a lesson, like some tidy realization wrapped up in a bow. But here it is. The people who are right for you won't need you to shrink. Not because they're perfect. Not because you'll find your people and everything will suddenly be easy. It won't. Relationships are still work. People are still complicated. But there's a kind of person who, when you say, actually, I'm not okay, doesn't make you feel like you've broken something. There's a kind of friendship where you can take up space and the room doesn't tilt. You haven't found it in every person. Maybe you haven't found it yet at all. But the fact that you've been hungry for it, that you've been quietly aching for it this whole time, that's not weakness. That's yourself trying to tell you something. You've been paying a price that was never yours to pay. You got really good at reading rooms, and that's not nothing. There's a gentleness in that, a real attentiveness, a kind of love even. But you deserve to stop performing long enough to find out what's underneath, what you actually think, what you actually need, what you sound like when you're not managing anyone. You're still here. That counts. You're allowed to take up a little more room than you've been taking.
I want to stay on that for a second. The idea that you're still here. Because people like you, people who've spent years making themselves smaller, easier, less, sometimes forget that getting through the day costs more for them than it does for other people. You're running the same life as everyone else, but you're also running this background hum the whole time. Is this okay? Am I too much? Did I say the wrong thing? That's exhausting in a way that doesn't show up on your face. You've made sure of that. So when I say you're still here, I don't mean it as a small thing. I mean, you've been carrying something heavy and you haven't put it down and you're still standing. That matters. Warmth that costs you everything isn't sustainable. At some point, you're going to have to decide that you matter too. Not more than other people, just equally. Just enough to be in the room as yourself. You're allowed to need things. You're allowed to be tired and say so. You're allowed to take up space in your own life. Maybe that starts tonight, alone, just asking yourself, what do I actually want right now? And then actually listening to the answer. You were never just the role you played for everyone else. You're still in there. And that's worth something. That's worth a lot. And I know that's easier to hear than it is to actually do. I know that for someone who spent years measuring their worth by how little trouble they cause, the idea of having needs feels almost selfish. It's not. It's just human. It's the thing you've been extending to everyone else this whole time, finally turned inward.